Hello and welcome to this second first look exploring session looking at Patient Grissell by John Phillip. It is a play from the early 1560s. The general date given is 1561, though that may be a guess. It certainly is from that sort of orbit, early in the reign of Queen Elizabeth, and we are relatively early through this exploring session. We've done one session, we've got a few scenes into the play, we've got into the overall plot. We have Grissell, whose mother has died, who is now going to get married after some wooing by the Marquis, and who we have also met, who has a company of, is accompanied by lots of allegorical figures, and also has acquired a itinerant servant as well in terms of Politic persuasion, who is there to do the stand-up routines. We are midway through a scene which we will be rejoining in just a moment with this wonderful room of readers reading Grissell today. Patience itself is
Liza Graham, extremely patient, in London.
Reading Sobriety, and also a nurse is
I'm arrogant. I'm the missing Avenger. Don't tell anyone.
reading Diligence today is
Rachael, an actor in New Jersey. I might look like a cat for more than half of this.
Yes, cat morphing is a thing. It is a condition that many of us have, and it's not an affliction. It's lovely. Reading Politic Persuasion and Countess today is
Hi, I'm Lynsey. I'm an actor and I'm currently living in Norfolk.
being upstaged massively by a cat. Reading the Marquis today is
Hi, I'm Katrina and I'm up in Scotland.
joining us to read Reason today is
Hello, I'm Helen Good and I'm in Yorkshire.
and reading A Maid and All the Ladies is
I am a lady. I'm Briony. I'm a drama queen from the Midlands.
and I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions as it were. So I say we're midway through scene 6 of the play. Grissell has gone off for a makeover. 80s style montage has occurred. It hasn't worked. We can dream. And as that is happening, the part that I haven't handed out, it looms at me as literally the next person to speak. Yes, I'm doing well. Might edit this out later. I will say, looking at the chart of who's going to be reading this part, who is free, I think it's going to be, for this scene anyway, Liza. Yes, I think it's going to be Liza. So yes, we are left on stage with Janikell, who is Grissell's father. This may change in the course of the session.
So I'm Janikell for the moment.
Oh yes, hang on, you're about to come back on stage again.
Because
Damn.
that makes me my own dad in a very Kentucky kind of way.
Yeah. Yeah. This is confusing. Everybody's on stage for this bit. Okay, I'm going to be all the ladies now. I'm going to say to Briony, if you can be Janikell. That's how I'll make that all work. That's how we're going to get through the scene. This is the sound of me completely messing up my schedule. Okay. On that note, we are going to dive into the scene. The end of the scene. We have the Marquis on stage. He's surrounded by his various familiars, Reason, Sobriety, and we also have Grissell's father on stage as well.
Right, honourable lord, give thy servant license to show my mind at large unto thee.
Good Father, show forth the fullness of thy sentence. Without longer let I heartily pray thee.
If God pour forth on you the oil of his unction, and with fertility thy vineyard increase, I mean, if he add his spiritual benediction, and give you children, bring them up in his peace. Instruct them to fear God, and their parents to obey, then God will preserve them from ruinous decay. Keep them always under lawful correction, restrain in them swearing and all ungodliness, chastise and punish them, lest sinful infection allure them to all mischief and wickedness. So shall God prosper you with his spirit and grace, and they, as he hath promised, shall on earth long run their race. Love one another as seems the enmity eschew, Love one another, the seeds of enmity eschew, for whereas faithful love is remnant, their hatred is subdued. This is most true, but God's fear is evermore with such couples resident. But whereas is the contrary, I mean strife and variance, there the devil is head and hath the whole governance.
Father, think not that oblivion shall be frequented. God willing that all that you have said shall be attempted. For while children are not punished for their sin, their mischief to spring doth fully begin. Their oaths abound, their lies most odious, begin to take root as hurtful and pernicious. If nature be corrupted with poisoned infection, then resteth there God's curse and heavy malediction. Therefore, in tender years, while youth is green and fresh, the lewd enormities a rod may redress, lest further inconvenience in age happen to grow, as is seen of such as wickedness do follow.
Indeed, a man may bow a twig which way he list. So in infancy a child with good manners furnished, in age in virtue will willingly persist, and such a one of God is surely blessed.
Children chastised in infancy in age fly sin, but if parents cloak their godless conversation, in the end to contemn their superiors they begin, therefore correction bringeth them to good education.
Lo, noble lord, have we long been absent?
No, truly, and therefore I am the better content.
Oh, noble lord, these costly robes unfitly seem to be. My ragged weed much more than this doubtless contented me.
These garments now to thine estate belong, my lady dear. Disdain them not, but for my sake refuse them not to wear.
Set God's fear before thine eyes, good Grissell.
Your hest shall be observed, good Father Janikell, but my heart is much pained to depart thee fro.
Rejoice, for needly from me thou must go.
Receive this friendly kiss, so now God be thy aid.
Faint not, for on him all my care is laid.
Come, let us depart with all celerity. Sound up your instruments, be joyful nobility, and in token of victory some song I will sing, which to perform, lady, I must have your helping.
Begin when you please, my lord, for with a willing mind to help you all I may, ready ye shall me find.
Sing, and then go out to the tune of Malkin. So this is a song you don't need to sing.
Good. Sith fate and fortune thus agree, my only joy and lady dear, a Romeo I will rest to thee, in whom the fruits of faith appear. Hi ho, my true love, I joy in thee, my turtle dove.
Sith heavenly gods that rule above have lotted me to be your wife, a Thisbe just thy spouse will prove, whilst Jove give charge to end my life. Hey ho, my sweetheart, I honour thee while death us part.
Lo, here thy lord doth thee embrace, whose sight far dearer seems than life. Within my breast thou gainest place, welcome to me, most loving wife. Hey ho, my true love, I fancy thee, my true love, my turtle dove.
No Tarquin's knight, nay Appian now, shall cause me shrink from duty due. Penelope I'll stand to you as lady just and faithful true. Hey ho, my sweetheart, I am thine own while death do part.
Thy virtues seem no less to be, with Alcest fair compare you may. Thy modest life inflamed me, to join and knit this knot today. Hi ho, my true love, I am thy own, my turtle dove.
Not Croesus gold nor Midas muck my fancy fixed may seem to change. Diana doth me still instruct to Venus nights I to be strange. Hi ho, my sweetheart, I honour thee while death us part.
Farewell to the good Father Janikell.
God give your honour joy of my daughter Grissell. The Lord be with you, and both your loves increase, and grant you to end your days in his peace.
And everyone exits apart from Janikell, probably.
I cannot but wonder to see the inflammation of love which here fully hath shown her operation, provoking this Marquis nourished in prosperity, to love poor Grissell, tasting so much poverty. But it is thy providence, my God, that this to pass hath brought. But thy divine wisdom, this action was wrought. By thy divine wisdom, this action was wrought. God be their defence, and keep them from dommage. Well, I will leave musing, and go to my cottage.
And exit Janikell, the father-in-law that the Marquis clearly wants nothing to do with. So yes, as has been put in the chat, but yes, a brief interlude to discuss obedience and children and yeah, beating them. Good
Yeah,
educational
like
policy.
content warning.
Well, I again, this is always the trouble with not reading ahead. But you know, we've had far more explicit demonstrations of the beating of children in plays before.
Yes, it seems like every now and then people just take time for a mini sermon before they say what they were going to say. And in this case, the sermon is, hey, if you're happy and you know it, beat your kids.
Well, I mean, we've had this in quite a few slightly earlier plays, that there does seem to be a real concern about children being out of control, and you know, don't forget to beat them, ladies and gentlemen. Quality to quite a few plays earlier than this, so it seems to still be in vogue, and obviously needs repeating a lot.
Yeah, I wonder if it's tied in with the general motif in these plays of disgust with the younger generation and their degenerate fancy ways. I wonder if... But this play has just weirdly Puritan sensibilities, apart from politic persuasion, obviously. And I don't know, I'm kind of intrigued to see... It reminds me a bit of Milton, you know, who tried to write... Comus, for example, who tried to write for theater but ended up just being a Puritan all over the place.
Yeah, there starts to seem to be this movement, and this may be towards the end of it, that instructional quality is still very much there, and yes, is quite strict. But you know, we've got examples of it going back to the 15th century, so we've got plenty of it about. Other thoughts, Rachael, and then Helen.
No, yeah. There's something, whenever it hits those Puritan, like that Puritan, you know, beat your kids thing, it just makes me like wish John Kent and John a Cumber or whatever would walk in, and just it would be that, just because that was so I don't know, such a cutesy play. And that's what I thought when Politic Persuasion came on, even though he was all sort of over the top evil. Yeah, not digging those little infomercials, but this little song here with as they're getting married is kind of a interesting and cute way to to do the wedding, to exchange the vows and have that be a part of the thing.
Yeah, but it's interesting how their choruses are quite different from each other. So he's doing "My true love, I join thee, my turtle dove," and it's just "I honour thee while death us part." You know, it's like it doesn't quite seem to be on the same level. I don't know if I'm overreading that. Helen.
Yeah, I was going to say a little bit more about the occasional what Rachael called infomercials, which I think is quite a good way of describing them. I was thinking about the book burning session we had with the other play this week, in that suddenly, for no completely out of nowhere, one of the characters turns to the audience and says, "Magic is evil and you shouldn't do it. Now I'm going to burn these books." These plays do get used. I mean, by some more than others. But even in the most fantastical plays, you get these sudden bursts into lecturing the audience.
Well, it's also a question of who is it for as well, and if we look at the bump at the beginning of the play, likewise due obedience of children toward their parents. There is an educational sort of bent to it in that sense. This infomercial was sponsored by Birchrod's Incorporated. Producing the best in corporal punishment wear since... Anyway, we'll move on. Any additional thoughts? Eric?
Well, yesterday we were talking about how Grissell probably was played by someone with a very beautiful voice, and now we discovered that the Marquis can also sing. Like, 6 scenes in, he remembers that he has a song. I don't know. It's just interesting to think about. Also, just the lyrics of the song are kind of... We've got like Penelope, we've got like the mythical mentions are kind of a bit dark. Romeo, we've got Thisbe, Penelope, Alcest. Midas and Croesus are kind of standard gold rich people who are symbolize that. But then the others are kind of lovers who die, basically.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, Liza. Yeah.
I'm intrigued, first of all, by the mention of Romeo. I don't know if he's actually in a play before this play. I mean, there's the Italian novel, which we know is translated into English, but are there any plays based on that novel before this?
I don't know. I mean, maybe someone will get around to doing something.
I mean, would it have been a popular enough thing that people would recognize the name as they would Penelope or Thisbe?
I can have a little look to see what its printing dates are in a moment.
And also about the singing, is this a choir boys play? Do we know, Robert? Do we know?
Off the top of my head, I have forgotten. I will have a quick look. I don't know whether I said it yesterday, and I've just got the 3 plays we're doing this week are really blurring in my mind at the moment. So I may be able to answer that question shortly. It feels a bit like it is, but that could just be me scrabbling around.
There's certainly a lot of singing. Patient Grissell, the musical. Grissell! !
Performed by boys at court, I have a note here. So yes, which all feels very plausible for the text. Yes. Rachael, are you reaching out?
No, it's just, I wrote in the chat that it seems like the Marquis is like he's leaving it a little open. Like maybe like she's saying till death do his part, and he's just calling her a turtle dove. Like that, it's a little more open ended. That I don't know. He could remarry. She's ready to do it until death. I don't know. It's just a little. I don't know. I don't know. I'm babbling. It's gonna be on the recording.
Okay, Eric, briefly before we move on.
Yeah, I found it interesting that the lyric is Sith heavenly gods that rule above have allotted me to be your wife, and my brain is going, no, it was your dad who did it. It was your dad who arranged this. But yeah.
Okay, so So we go into scene 7, and we have the return of Politic Persuasion, who we've not seen for a little bit, who will be joined shortly by Reason and Sobriety. So, Politic, take it away.
Now, Politic Persuasion, now or else never. 5 for chaffing, I can't keep my teeth together. I tell you, I have found out such an invention as among the common sort shall kindle dissension. A Marquis married to a beggarly Grissell, her father an old fool and an impotent cripple, his store and substance in value not worth 20 pence. This gear cannot choose but breed inconvenience. I will not cease privily her confusion to work, for under honey the proverb saith poison may lurk. So though I simulate externally love to pretend, my love shall turn to mischief, I warrant you, in the end. The pretty fool is puffed up, her belly is big. I conjecture the troll will bring forth some proper pig.
Enter Reason and Sobriety.
In public toil in countries strange, full often I have been, where matrons chaste and ladies fair these earthly eyes have seen. But now for wisdom's obsequies to Grissell I compare, to say the truth, her modest life and virtues are most rare.
You say the truth, for only she, all men confess the same. For courteous facts and Loki mild deserves a worthy name.
Oh, so these gentlemen praise and lift her to the skies. I could find in my heart to pluck out the beggar's brat's eyes. Fie on't, it grieveth me to the very heart. A lady honourable, nay, a whip and a cart. Bones, here's stuff if the world were quick. These yonkers with a vengeance are come in the nick. I will to them, to put my practice in your. My countenance shall be grave, sad, and demure. God speed, gentlemen, you're welcome hither. Methought of Grissell I heard you common together, praising her for virtues such as beseem but rare. To commend her so highly, very much to blame you are. I knew her offspring, from the beginning. Is she any more than a beggar's brat, brought up in spinning? Her father is indigent, needy, and lame, an old doting fool that Janikell hath to name. In her there is no jot of noble sanguinity, therefore unfitly that her seed should rule or have dignity.
Content thy mind, thy talk is vain. Thou seekst to heap up strife. I cannot choose, but needs commend her good and honest life. Above all spoused dames which bide within this town, she best deserves the price of praise and helm of rich renown.
The scorpion forth will fling his poison to annoy, and passengers that pass him by with venom to destroy. So thou, whose malice doth abound, thy sting dost now prepare, to vex and harm those wights whose lives most virtuous are.
Not I, for 20 pound will hurt her by the rood. That which I have spoken is sure the verity. If I could hurt her, yet would I do her good, because ye extol her for perfect integrity, but I had rather she were hanged by St. Anthony. I would she were slain or banished the country. What sayest thou?
It is good to use such honest company.
God save you, my lords, whose honours be excellent. My lord Gautier for you both hath sent, and desireth you to haste to him without delay. For my lady, his wife, is delivered this day of a beautiful child, amiable to behold.
Oh, happy day, oh, tidings sweet, our joys can scarce be told.
Incontinent we ready are with thee from hence to wend.
Lead you the way, right worthy lords, on you I will attend.
And exit at this point, reason, sobriety, diligence, etc., leaving politic behind.
Fare ye well, gentle gentlemen, God be your speed. Brought to bed already, they have plied the box indeed. I dare say it is some pretty moafed twig. It's marvel how she brought not a litter, for her belly was big. Well, let this pass, now this gear to cotton doth begin. Let them laugh in the end that the victory doth win. Sith my former device is thrust to exemption, and that I cannot prevail with rancour and contention, I will frequent through policy another mean, wherewith I will molest and destroy her clean. I will try her patience another kind of way. Let me see. Even so it shall be, I swear by this day. Peace, conceal thy purpose as yet, politic persuasion, till such time as thou see further occasion. Not a word more, my lord Marquis entereth the place. Now mayst thou contrive thy drift within short space.
And we'll just briefly pause before the entrance of the Marquis, who is singing again. But we'll pause before we get to singing Marquises. So yes, there's some time has passed. Some time has passed in the span of politic speech, and there's a baby on the way. Politics, not a fan. Not a fan there. Thoughts from the room about what's going on here and what it's doing. Rachael.
No, I just love Politic in this. I just love that part. Just these, it just lets you. It seems so fun. Liza was doing it yesterday and Lynsey today, and it just seems like just a fun roller coaster ride to go on and run through.
Yes, it's so much fun being bad, isn't it? Liza.
Well, now we're seeing a bit like Common Conditions, which we read some time ago. We're seeing the Vice, who seem to be the only character in this play having a good time. We now see the Vice start to be straight up evil, and a destroyer. And I don't know, does the Vice need a motivation? Is the Vice's motivation just to be a Vice? He certainly seems both misogynistic in general and very contemptuous of Grissell's origins. But then we don't know some things about politic persuasion. Yesterday made us think that maybe he had a sort of rustic, lower class accent. Maybe he can't bear to see someone of his own background elevated. But again, I'm just speculating here. He doesn't explicitly say what his motivation is. And again, does a Vice need one? Open question.
Yes, I think it's a good point. Maybe he doesn't need an. We can definitely invent one or infer ones from the text. I like the idea, yes, that there's a sort of resentment of the social order being changed. The status, jumping the queues, not allowed. Kind of attitude might give a performer a way in with that. Other thoughts, Helen.
He's also been trolling among the populace. He is a populist in some ways. He's trying to find an undercurrent of resentment elsewhere that can be made into a mass movement, I feel.
He's looking for wedges he can hammer in, isn't he? Other thoughts, Lynsey?
Yeah, just a textual thing. Politic says, I dare say it is some pretty moafed twig.
Yeah, so anything like that that's in bold, we're not really sure.
I had, my guess was some pretty mop-heated twig. I don't know.
It is noted as something that we need to tidy up for and do more investigation into. But mop is good. I like mop. Helen.
Oh, my latest thought was moth, M-O-T-H. But I don't know why it should be a moth.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is there some kind of connection with the next line about, I mean, he says earlier about she'll bring forth a pig, and then here he's talking about a litter and a belly was big. So is it a reference to another name for an animal that has litters rather than single offspring?
Yeah, I think
mainly single offspring.
I think we've got an uncertainty that we need to resolve. So excellent. Other thoughts before we continue the scene? Effectively, this is the ongoing scene here because we have the Marquis entering to Politic. Eric,
it's interesting how if we assigned colors to these characters, I feel like Politic would be like sort of in rainbow sort of colors, and everyone else would be in sort of drab gray, just because they're very I mean, in terms of like tone and sort of joviality, level of sort of. But then somehow Sobriety and Reason and Diligence are suddenly extremely excited because they have a child to take care of and that kind of thing. I don't know. It just seems very, like, not monotonous, but like they're all sort of very well, because they're resisting the change, aren't they? That Politic is bringing, basically. So it's kind of like they're trying to take the color away from Politic. I don't know. It's just an interesting thought.
It's true. They're resisting Politic's change, but Politic is also resisting the change that Grissell is bringing. Whereas they're much more accepting.
True.
Rachael, and then Helen.
I think some parts of Politic here. Liza said yesterday, stuff about MRAs, those type of people, and Helen was saying like populist. In terms of like MRA stuff, I feel like maybe as an actor to jump into some of Politic's misogyny, it could be that sort of thing where, him and Grissell are coming from the same social class, and he believes it's because she's a woman and she can marry above her class that she's able to get what she wants, not from fitting some ideal thing and this man having genuine feelings for her, but that it's some sort of gold digging type move. And then on the populist thing that Helen said, Politic, I feel like this is a great part because there is some charisma here. There is something that draws people to him in the way that he's speaking, not in its content, not in the content of it, because the content is kind of horrible what he's saying and very degrading. But just the way he's saying it, it's like you want to listen to him because you think he's going to say something that is profound.
I'm liking finding modern analogues, which is always sometimes a potential route into a text that gives us options. Other thoughts before we move on, Eric?
I was just wondering about the whole thing about I would never hurt her. Of course, I would never hurt her. But I would see her hanged, or maybe slain or banished or something else. What do you think? And that bit seems a bit like I'm not entirely sure what Politic is playing at. Is it just sort of like, well, I'm not going to hurt her, but I can cause her to be heard through other means? Is that the whole idea?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting there. I don't know whether he's maybe hinting that she's so good, that we could martyr her. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it is a weird one.
Wait, is he sort of just testing the mood of the waters with reason and sobriety? I mean, that's sort of the nature of what he's trying to do here. He's trying to drive a wedge in the household, and just by just saying, "Oh well, you know, I wouldn't do anything," but you know, if something happened, would anyone else have a problem with that? And just seeing what their reactions are. Anyway, let's get some more data. So the scene effectively continues. Enter to Politic. We have the Marquis singing to the tune of the Latter Almain.
I live in joyful jollity with my true love and lady dear. To me she giveth loyalty, for virtuous acts she hath no peer. So true, so just in word and deed, that I may her trust in time of need. Her gentle heart through wisdom's art so courteously doth play her part, that needs I must express her praise, till direful death cuts short my days. Rapturous applause. Ye heavens and powers divine, which did predestinate to me, your creature framed of slime, such hap and lucky fate, as tendeth still to urge me forth your praise to elevate. Most happy be the time that I elected such a mate, whose loving heart excelleth far Seleucius' noble Damis. Her godly heart is clean bereft of vain and wanton games. A Dido for her chastity, Penelope for truth, a Thisbe for her ardent love, and Pyramus in sooth. Cassandra she for patience, full aptly may be named. Among the rout of chaste dames, my matron may be famed, whose virtues far abound, and sandy shores excel. Courtly dames for counsel grave, my spouse doth bear the bell.
God give good even, my lord, with all my heart. If your wife be so virtuous as now ye import, surely she is worthy commendation. She may be made a saint for her good conversation. But hark, my lord, nay, now, hearken in your ear. Try her that way, and by mine honesty I swear you shall see her decline from virtues so rife, and alter topsy-turvy her saintish life. Her patience quickly shall changed be. I warrant your honour will say it is not she.
As sure as God doth live, and sit in heaven above, so sure will I in every point this thy device approve. Therefore call in with speed my servant Diligence, that of this act we may give him intelligence.
Your will shall be performed without delay. Ho, messenger, this place appropriate.
Who calleth for me? I am here by this day. What is thy will, thy pleasure intimate?
Haste thee incontinent to my lord's presence.
That to do I am in readiness.
See that his person thou honour and reverence. Dispatch, whoreson dreamer, go forward with speediness.
Soft fire, the common proverb saith, sweet malt doth make.
The matter requireth haste, hence thy passage take.
God save your honour and grant you his grace.
Messenger, thou art heartily welcome to this place. I have secret things to thee to inculcate. Give diligent ear, mark what I ostentate. Thou knowest Grissell, my lady and wife, with whom in love and fear I have led my life. Further, thou knowest my daughter, which she doth nourish, and with the milk of her breasts foster and cherish. And I that thou make semblant, at my commandment, with thy sword in sunder to divide that innocent. Yet shalt thou not hurt it, but to Bullen Lagris it convey, to the Countess of Pango, my sister, without let or stay, who will nourish it and give it sustentation, and bring her up in godly and honest conversation.
To this message you must take good regard. Be well assured thou shalt not lose thy reward.
All that to me in charge you now committed have shall be performed in all the haste, else God my soul may save.
If thou to any wight that lives, these novels shown disclose,
Geoffrey Grimston at midnight shall pluck thy bowels through thy nose.
my favourable love thyself for aye shalt surely lose.
For thy behaviour, whoreson elf, thine ears shalt surely lose.
God let me never live on earth, his vengeance heap my woe. If I to any living wight this secret charge do show, and for this committed act with all convenient speed, these hands shall straight prepare to execute the deed. With violence the babe to pull from arms, my heart is pressed. Thus then the mother's heart with care and grief shall be distressed. For I will fain that bloody sword shall sunder and divide, and scorch the infant tender corpse with wounds both large and wide.
Peace, not a word, but gossip for £20. Your spouse with her nurse and child enter into place. You must counterfeit that dolour may amply abound. Let trickling tears be now distilled apace.
Your counsel grave to intimate, most willingly I will. I am decreed in every point your hest for to fulfil. To tears my joys I now divert, my looks shall meastful be. No kind solace now shall seem to bide or rest in me. My vigour and my feature fair, salt tears with spots shall stain, and woeful plaints shall forth astend my plight and pangs of pain.
And enter Grissell with a nurse carrying the baby in third stage direction.
Come on, my nurse, how doth our child, I pray thee, forth express?
The child no doubt her perfect health hath, such is God's goodness.
God bless thee, little one, and shield thee with his grace. Eke grant thee health, and long to run on earth thy vital race. My lord and spoused mate receiveth here in place. Him to salute as duty binds, I will proceed apace.
And I will to his presence go, perhaps to get some gain, for silly nurses with young babes do watch and take much pain. Thy smiling looks and will gratulate and heap thy father's joy. God grant the grace and thee preserve from gulfs of griefs annoy.
Godspeed, my lord most honourable. Why are you pensive? What grief doth you betide? Be of good cheer, show yourself comfortable. Set sorrow and sadness, my lord, clean aside.
Owns how standeth the case? In faith, dame, my sorrows do haste them apace.
O my lord, behold your daughter dear, how pertly she doth smile. Her pretty looks your tristfulness with ease may clean exile.
Away, nurse, these words are altogether vain. They minish not, but more and more augment my pain. The cause of dolour is so great that grief doth still abound. No kind of joy to ease my woe can none for me be found. The heaviest hap that ever chanced is now to me befall. Was never lord so tossed with pain, nor pinched to the gall. O cruel wights that cause my care, O stony hearts of flint, can never tears nor doleful plaints cause rigour for to stint. But that ye will proceed to work your cursed will, above all griefs this grief surmounts, an infant's blood to spill.
O show to me thy mated wife the thing that causeth care, and I to swage thy pensive mind will remedy prepare.
Thou canst not add relief, my dear. If I the thing repeat, it rather will torment thy mind with painful passions great. The cause is this: my nobles my wedded state disdain, and I the will that I, poor wretch, an exile shall remain, and lose my ruling state, my treasure and my store, which luckless hap in gushing kind with tears mine eyes deplore. Or else that our sweet child, which from these loins issued, with direful sword should murdered be, which thing my heart hath rued. Now to avoid their wrathful ire and favour win again, I grant and yield that this our child with sword shall straight be slain.
And at this dramatic moment in time, I'm going to pause in a very arbitrary fashion.
Dun, dun, dun.
You know, just to give us that sense of the stakes and the drama. You know, that wedge has been worked hard by Politic. Is you know I'm just going to start my thought on something really trivial. Diligence probably walks really slowly.
Yes.
You know, they call for Diligence, and then he comes in and he's taking his time. And Politic is clearly someone who moves really fast, and it's just no, your lord's over there. Get quick, move. It's an interesting character point. It's something that you know, it's interesting that we have this little exchange when he could just enter and it could just happen. So it's an interesting thing to note. There's a plan here. Based on a bit of a lie and a false premise. Thoughts from the room. How are we feeling about this, Lynsey?
Well, I mean, I was expecting the Marquis to put up a bit more of a fight, you know, to Politic's suggestion. But he just says, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, absolutely. What shall I do? It's just sort of like, are you a character? Do you have a backbone? Yeah.
I just want to ask Katrina about the Marquis. How is the Marquis reading for you? I mean, as someone to play.
I mean, so far he's pretty simple, isn't he? He doesn't have much in the ways of brain cells to put together, but as Lynsey was saying, he doesn't fight with Politic. He doesn't put down extra terms. He just trusts the game completely, and you'd think that they could have a bit more of a fight, you know, a bit more of a negotiation. But maybe Politic is a little bit magic and a little bit abstract, so he just gets straight into his brain and, you know, seeds his chaos. He'd be awful on Twitter.
Yeah.
If only he wasn't already on Twitter. So yeah, I mean, there might be an element of it's been set up because by Politic talking to Reason and Sobriety, you know, who are to a degree, you know, elements of the Marquis. If we're going with the allegorical thing, then in a sense he's already been slightly pushed in this direction before he's actually pushed in that direction. That might be the logic. Liza.
Yeah, in these morality plays, you often find the Marquis is a person. His servants are virtues plus one vice. So often in a morality play, the protagonist's character and his actions are determined by who they admit to be their servant. So perhaps the Marquis was set on this path when he admitted Politic persuasion in the scene where they met. But this is where we, up till now, the Marquis has been a pretty straightforward character. He says a thing, he feels a thing, he does it. Here is where at Politic's prompting he starts to introduce falsehood into his relationship with Grissell, and the concept of trying or testing someone's fidelity or someone's love or someone's loyalty is a pretty common trope that we see in these plays, and it lets you sort of, you know, introduce a sort of play within a play as the person being tested responds to the test. Here, I think we are going to see it taken to extremes. It's like, oh, my wife is a great person. Are you sure she's a great person? Yeah, I'll just pretend I'm going to kill her baby.
And let's see what happens, because this is all a great idea. Yeah, thoughts on actually how extreme this play has suddenly got. I mean, we have had a death, in the play off stage, admittedly of sickness and old age and etc. But yeah, this is quite an extreme idea, even if only necessarily an idea. Rachael.
No, I was just gonna say how aggressive Politic is becoming, because when he was with Sobriety before, he seemed to be treating other people as his equals, and now it seems he's gaining more power, and he does not have to hide as much of who he is, because he's getting on Diligence and telling him all these things, and Diligence fires back at him like, why are you coming at me? I would have done it, if you would be a little nicer to me, like, or I would do so, do whatever you're asking if you'd be a little nicer. Yeah, and also he's going from trying to push his ideas into conversation and telling his little truths of his perspective into sort of just outright lying and getting his way that way and turning people to his way through misrepresentation.
Helen, muted at the moment.
Thank you. I suddenly had a thought. I was trying to look for parallels, and I suddenly thought of Job, the Old Testament guy. And it struck me that here we've got the Marquis in the place of God testing Job because if you think about it, at this time, sort of 1 in 5 babies made it to the age of 5. So infant death was not so unusual. So people who were seeing this would have had babies die and would have had to say, it was God's will. I'm not going to make a fuss about this. I shall be sad, but I won't overdo it, if you see what I mean. It just suddenly struck me that here we had a possible parallel.
Any additional thoughts before we continue the scene? Because we stopped at a terribly dramatic moment. So, Eric.
I was going to say, if you want to go like sort of biblical, I would take it even further to say like the Marquis is kind of Adam. Like he's that simple until Politic turns up and sort of starts planting ideas of the seeds of doubt in his head, kind of thing. And of course, Eve is always to blame.
Okay, so we have left the Marquis saying that our child with sword shall straight be slain. Grissell gets a chance to respond.
Oh, Lord, my God, what words are these? They fill my heart with woe. Ah, silly wretch, must thou thy child thus ruefully forgo? Would God in poor estate poor Grissell had remained, then void of cause thy tender heart with woe had not been pained. Ye matrons mild, deplore my case, take fountains to your eyes. Oh, let your clamours penetrate the haughty clouded skies. My child, alas, in childhood now subjected to the sword? Oh, ruthless hearts which her to kill do cruelly accord. What heart would condescend to reave thee of thy life? Who would consent to scorch thy flesh with cruel cut of knife? This chance with patience I will sustain and bear. God will revenge this bloody fact. In end, I nothing fear. My lord, the daughter is your own. With her attempt your will. If it seem pleasant to thy heart, thy pleasure now fulfill.
Then take with speed thy glittering sword, proceed and play thy part. End thou her race, fulfill their minds, straight gorge her through the heart.
Alas thou dame, give me the child, away and get thee hence.
Alas, my lord, be merciful, commit not such offence. Consider now how that God, who which rules the haughty skies, each little thought for to behold hath opened wide his eyes. And how then can so great a fact from him concealed be, with which doth the thoughts of every wight discern and plainly see? Can murder then from him be close? No, no, my lord, not so. There is a God which to revenge this act will not be slow. Perpend, attend, and give regard to that which he hath said. Thou shalt not kill, that this precept of thee be rightly weighed. Now, if thou condescend thy flesh with death for to torment, thou canst not escape God's wrathful ire and grievous punishment.
O nurse, leave off such talk. In vain thou spent'st thy breath. It is not I that yield my child to stroke of grisly death, but spitefully my commons now are inly puffed with hate, and go about to short my life, such is my hapless state. For either I from dignity shall straight exempted be, and abject like to be thrown from rule, such hap is chanced to me, that in exile as banished I ever shall remain, or else in haste deliver them this youngling to be slain. And rather than from native town I go to ye will go, not my sweet babe, but only I will life and breath forego. Therefore leave off thy tears, thy plaints can find no grace.
Tush, foolish woman, this is a heavy case. Better were it for him to have the child slain than his own person should suffer such pain.
Yet, noble lord, if nature seem in thee to have a place, preserve thy child from death, and not her vital race. The tiger that in wilderness doth feed and I remain, will to the most of her might her young ones shield from pain. The ravenous ramping lion will her whelps from danger save. The savage bear with shape deformed will close in secret cave, and often lick and cherish them according to her kind. Still clad with hair and ugly shape, she like herself them find. Then sith that beasts with treason want their proper ones defend, much more should man, which wisdom hath, for his own flesh contend.
These for I will share with sword, the infant's corpse by force. Nay on thy plaints, nor on his tears I mind to take remorse.
Body of God, this a dick for the nonce by the rude. He'll do it her, and he say the word. I warrant you full soon the youngling's heart blood he'll search and pierce with his glittering sword. Tut, I promise you, this younker is one of them that God bade woe. For with him, though I say it, there's but a word and a blow.
I grant that beasts preserve by toil their younglings from all woe. But if I should attempt the same, I should my life forego. What boots it one through rule he bare to take a sword in hand, 1,000 armed fighting men to vanquish or withstand? I then my life should lose, each wight my blood would spill. Yet my death could not quench their thirst, but they would have their will. And then should child and father both be slain on bloody sword. Yet first that she is slain, my senses all accord.
Alas, my lady and mistress must have a heavy heart to see her child subject to such painful smart.
Oh, do not so, but condescend and grant my poor request, and suffer not with violence thy babe to be distressed. Give me the child, I pray, and save her from these foam. For I will feed and nourish her, and take her as mine own. These breasts shall bring her up, these hands shall find her food. I will not cease but careful be to fend her guiltless blood. Thus doing, thou shalt stop the mouths with the babe devour. Thus doing, she shall be preserved; her foes shall have no power to hasten this untimely death and direful heavy fate. And they shall against that mighty Jove no crime shall perpetrate. For I from hence shall take my flight, and hence be clean exiled. This will I do, O worthy Lord, for safeguard of thy child.
Let be these words that they more increase thy pain.
Nay, nay, without all doubts, the child shall be slain. Dispatch her speedily, cease all this prattling.
Asunder her body I straight will take pain. The safeguard of her life hath caused this long tattling.
Make as you would kill it.
Nay, stay thy hand, good friend, confer out of place, for nature will not let me see her slain before my face. But I shall yield up breath, and vital life soon end. Therefore from out our sights I pray thee hastily do end.
All shall be done right, sovereign lord. As now you have me willed, I will not cease till rigorously her blood with sword be spilled.
Nay, I will follow. Perhaps my mournful petition may cause him to leave his sinful intention.
And Diligence, etc., exits with baby.
Bones, how like you this gear? The nurse is gone after. I cannot blame you if you mourn for your daughter.
Oh God, my God, what rigour now have subjects 'gainst us used! Alas, my woe increaseth much. How is my lord abused? Nay, rather, how doth nature urge me mestfully to wail, to see how cruel destiny against me doth prevail. My daughter reft from tender paps, alas, my woeful pain, and causelessly by tyrants fierce with bloody sword thus slain. Farewell, sweet child, thy mother now shall see thy face no more. Help, spoused dames, help Grissell now her fate with tears to plore. Gush forth your briny streams, let trickling tears abound. The earth and firmament above fill with your mournful sound. My child, alas, in swaddling clouts bereft and slain with sword. Lord help, Lord aid, my woeful plight, on me take some remort. Albeit such direful hap hath chanced, grant patience to my pain, that I may seem this cross of thine with joy for to sustain. How now, my loving lord? Revive your heavy mind. Come, go with me to solace you, some joy shall be assigned.
Beloved mate, whose wifely troth the sandy seas excel, I grant to execute such things as you shall forth refel.
Body o' God, what woman here could take the matter so patient, but rather pour forth tears her dolour to complain? Yet she seemeth with this fact to be well content, though that her child be murdered and slain.
Come on, my mate, let us from hence to pastime's sport now wend.
To go with you assuredly, my love I do intend.
And they exit, leaving Politic behind.
Ah, sirrah, are you all gone? Is Politic persuasion left here alone? Well then, where art thou, whoreson, awake or asleep? I think thy wits be gone goslings to keep. Whoop, quoth I to my sheep, never had a one. Body in here's an empty head, for all the wit is gone. Let me see, even so, now lo, I have that I sought. How like you my policies? How wisely have I wrought? Nay, rather, how like you her constancy and patience? Truly that is wonderful strong in this inconvenience. But as I have begun, so will I afflict her still. I am kin to a woman in all points. I'll have my will. Fare ye well, no remedy I must depart. Farewell, God be with you, my pigsney with all my heart. If you had Grissell's patience and conditions excellent, you and I would make a match to marry incontinent.
There seems to be a bit of audience participation there, picking someone in the audience there. You will be my pigsney.
Or is the maid still on, or who's still on? I mean,
well, yeah, we have so many absent stage directions. We didn't even know the maid was on stage at this point. We were waiting the next scene when the maid is most definitely here, and suddenly we see Maid and go, these servants, you see, they're so silent and invisible. They're so well trained. Yeah, there's several things. Just to go on from all the biblical references talking earlier. Now we've got Abraham and Isaac standing over there with the sword ready to go, and then no, actually we'll do the trick off stage. I mean, it's a scene that is loaded with dramatic potential. Of course, you've got Grissell standing over this terrible thing that she thinks is going to happen. It's the question of whether the play sort of earns that moment and why and how that's all going on. Thoughts from the room about this test on Grissell, Liza?
Yeah, I mean, this scene strikes me as slightly better constructed than the proposal scene, like in the proposal scene, they just would not shut up, and in this scene, there's actually some dramatic tension. Like he commands them to bring the child, they bring the child, he threatens the child. Is he going to kill the child? It actually seems to be fairly tightly constructed with relatively little sermonizing. People asked, why does Grissell not comment in between her two speeches while the nurse is pleading? Perhaps she's fallen insensible? I don't know.
Well, I think that's the test, isn't it? That's the thing. She said, I will obey your will. And then all this stuff is happening around it, making it worse. Actually, the less she says, the worse the scene gets for her.
Yeah.
And that silent presence is actually is potentially incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I mean, if she's going to be doing a lot of lamentation from here on out, and the less, again, the less, as you say, the less used, the better. Just last point about the Vice's audience molestation. We've seen a lot of Vices molest the audience, and the fact that this Vice is so actively opposed to harmony in the Marquis's relationship and Grissell's relationship sort of makes him flirting with an audience member. Oh, I say him, the Vice. The Vice strikes me as very, like, gender is not the most important thing about them. So, the Vice could be flirting with anyone, but yeah, saying, you want to marry me? Okay, bye.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a no from most of the audience there. Yeah. Rachael? Or you just doing an emphatic hand gesture? No, okay. Other thoughts? Eric?
There was a bit that I was going to bring up, but then I forgot because of that, like, sort of whole wedding thing. Yeah, no, I was thinking that if the child was male, then they would have definitely have killed it off. I don't know why, but that's the feeling that I got. Sort of like the whole Oedipus thing as well. Sort of like leaving a child alive to sort of a male child, presumably, to come back and potentially kill his father, is business that you usually see in other types of tragedies, but this is kind of, I don't know, it's just interesting, sort of, yeah, the begging that happens is by someone who is not the mother.
Other thoughts? Rachael?
Liza just posted it in the chat. I was about to bring this up, but this reminds me of the closing scene in Taming of a Shrew, where it's just very, very, like, much about obedience, like, and sort of, well, from a modern perspective, from a contemporary perspective, it's very abusive to gain obedience from a spouse.
Yeah, I gotta give credit where credit's due. That was Briony. Briony. I think you should say. I think you should say the thing that you came up with.
Yes, because we did Taming of a Shrew a couple of weeks ago, so we've got that in the bank for those who want to compare.
Well, that's why I wasn't sure because of the whole duck situation, so I didn't say it out loud. But I did make sure I said a rather than the. But yeah, it strikes me.
I don't know why
at the
anyone would
minute-
say the. I can't imagine why.
No. But it's it's like the shrewing of a tame. It's like Politic is trying to make this transform this tame person. It's the same level of frustration almost as well that people have with the shrew when they are trying to tame the shrew. He just seems, they seem so annoyed that Grissell is as virtuous as she is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it's yeah, the frustration. Politic. Maybe there's a real thing about Politic. Just the fact that he's just not getting anywhere is just driving them slightly around the bend. Eric.
I was going to say that it's how do you call it? I was going to say it's basically poking the bear till you see what happens. But that actually doesn't happen because the nurse actually comments on how that thing about wild beasts take care of their kids. They don't actually kill their kids. So it's not about sort of bringing out the beast, I guess.
Absolutely. Anything else before we move on to another scene? Lynsey.
Yeah, just very quickly, I'm still really not understanding what the Marquis, what's going on in the Marquis's mind. He immediately agrees to test Grissell. He does so. He sees his child go off, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, let's go, and I'll bring you solace and joy and all the rest of it." I mean, he's just invented this whole thing.
Well, he is under, or he believes he is under some pressure from his followers. Politic has lied to him and said that we might have because of this, the nature of this match, you maybe you should go into exile, and this is bringing shame on us all. So he does feel under some pressure.
Oh,
it's not He's not like it's just what should we do today? Let's terrify the wife. There is a reason going on there. It isn't particularly well explicated. There is some exposition issues that I've got here. Is that I'm tending to slightly slide off the edge of speeches when they are actually sort of pushing that kind of data. Eric.
Well, also, I guess it's that thing that it's all a test for Grissell, not for the Marquis. Because if it was for the Marquis, then it would be sort of choose exile or die, or kill the child. Sort of. He is the Marquis is never faced with that choice.
And of course, as far as everyone else is concerned in the room, the baby is not going to die, apart from the nurse and Grissell. It is a trick. Liza, did you want to come in, and then Helen?
Really, I realized I only had like half a sentence, which was, yeah, Eric, if it was that choice, that would actually be really interesting if the Marquis was faced with that, what he would choose. But instead, he's just being a jerk with Politic enabling him. Gosh.
Helen.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it is a test of the Marquis, then he's failed.
Yes, if this was an evaluation, it's a big issue for him here going forward. Rachael.
No. I don't know that maybe the Marquis is a foil to Grissell. She's patient. There's this infomercial about the way you should discipline your children and child rearing every once in a while. Maybe it's supposed to be that Grissell acting in the way that women of that time period ideally should, or that people in that period felt they should. And he's the Marquis, even if he's like, I guess, within his rights of what a husband would be allowed to do legally to somebody, I don't know, or morally, I don't know. I don't want to talk for those people in the 1500s or the 1600s who are watching this play about what they feel a husband should have been. But maybe it's a comment on the different upbringing Grissell and the Marquis had, that she was reared with that strict discipline of the time, and maybe he was not. He's a little more willful and not not put together. I don't know how to phrase that.
Okay. Other thoughts before we go into scene 9, which I think has one of my favourite opening lines? Briony.
Just to tack on to what Rachael was saying there, I guess in the hierarchy of things, women are a tiny bit above dogs, but still below men very firmly. In terms of when they talk about the obedience, it's you have to be obedient to your parents until you find a husband, and then you're obedient to him.
Yes, which is making our usual question of how would we stage this today a lot more problematic. So let us introduce to a new character who has been referenced earlier as a place for the delivery of babies to. So if you're out and you have a baby delivery on the way, you can leave it next door at the Countess of Pango. Enter Countess and Maid.
Of Pango I, the Countess, am, my praise doth splendish bright. Beloved I am for justice cause of every faithful wight. But one thing, heaps on heaps, our grief and doleful pain, and gives us cause in gushing kind with tears to wail and plain. How spitefully hath death dealt now with me, most woeful wretch! What meant you destinies so dire, your hands thus forth to stretch, and merciless to give such doom as works a lady's woe, forcing me, my faithful mate, so soon for to forego? Why rather reft ye not my file by force in twain, your hateful ire with rigour mixed to mourn doth me constrain?
Comfort yourself, my lady dear, let sorrows now decrease. It is long time since that he died, therefore your tears do cease. Can tears give life, or him restore to former life again? No. Why then do you most meacefully for him, your mate, complain? I judge that God displeased be with this your heavy moan. His race was run, leave off your plaints, for God will have his own.
My heavy mind you comfort much, but nature shows her kind, for she hath well springs to mine eyes to mourn his death assigned. His love, his faith so fully shown, to me his spoused mate, doth give me cause to pour out plaints to show my hapless fate. But who is that now to us hasteth thus apace?
Enter Diligence.
A messenger, my lady fair, this is the certain case.
God save and preserve you, my lady amiable, and lengthen your life with prosperous increase. Your brother Gautier, my lord most honorable, doth wish your health with quiet rest and peace, whose love to the world shall never cease. He hath sent you here his daughter young to cherish, which he with diligence doth trust you will nourish, and to try the patience of his lady and wife, this action doubtless was attempted, for she thinketh that the sword hath reft the babe of life. Now therefore sith my lord his trial hath frequented, he desireth your honor, as love twixt you hath ever been ostended, to conceal and keep secret this his intent, and let it not be known but that it hath felt death's dent.
Greet well, my lord and brother dear, I will perform his mind. To utmost of my might this shall be done he hath assigned. Welcome to me, thou pretty one, thine aunt doth thee embrace. My heart revives and skips for joy to see thy pretty face. Greet thou in my behalf my brother's noble wife, whose virtues blown abroad by fame appear in her most rife.
All shall be done as you do will. The Lord do you defend. For to Salutius now I purpose straight to wend.
Farewell, thou messenger, God in thy travel shield thee.
And to his safeguard, noble dame, thy servant I doth yield thee.
Exit Diligence, pursued by a cat.
O lily babe, whose feature fair surmounts the ruddy rose, in shaping every limb of thee, nature did forth disclose her cunning skill for every wight that hath thy vigour seen, may say and swear a fairer piece hath never framed been. Come now, receive this child, behold her seemly face, her smiling cheer doth comfort me, God pour on her his grace.
O God, thou God of mightful power, thou rock on who is stayed, my confidence and all my trust, my buckler and my aid. What living wight hath seen a fairer female child? Her lively looks and shape so clear hath dolour clean exiled.
Come on to give it food, let us depart this place.
I will attend on your honour by God's grace.
And they exit. And that's just me ducking myself. So we have it's a really interesting scene. It's not very long. Countess of Pango. I just love that line of Pango. I the Countess am.
Splendish is a nice word.
Splendish bright. Who's, in mourning and very sad, and the maid has clearly just had enough of this. It's been ages now. Will you stop going on? And then someone brings a baby, and it's just, that's nice. I mean, nobody bats an eyelid as to the reason why this baby has turned up, which is explained to you. Just saying, okay, that's fine. That's obviously the nature of the universe. Maybe this is the kind of request you get every week from the Marquis. What's the family like?
Or Countess could secretly be Wonder Woman and swear vengeance on her brother. I mean, I feel like there needs to be an intervention of some kind in this.
Well, sorry, Helen.
Oh no, I was going to say that this sort of noble fostering between royal and princely and noble houses was the norm. I mean, certainly in England, other countries put it down to the fact that the English didn't actually like their children and would farm them out to other households so that they could be starved and beaten without causing the parent any distress. But I don't think that was actually why it was done. But it is perfectly normal. What is abnormal is the Grisell's belief that the baby is dead.
Yes, but they tell the person they're fostering it to that we're testing it. I mean, that's the circumstance that is, and the Countess does not seem to bat an eyelid on this. He's just very, very happy. They're very happy to have the child. It looks like they're going to have a lovely time.
That bit of complicity is weird on the Countess's part, because otherwise she seems to be, quite a good person. She's again a type of faithfulness. She's mourning for her deceased spouse, who she seems to have loved a lot. And then she gets the child, and you just randomly get a baby FedEx to you or something, and she's like, great, and then she speaks positively of Grissell, and yet she agrees to not tell her that her child is alive and there.
Eric.
I was going to say it's probably like the modern equivalent would probably be if you're talking to another, well, a woman talking to another woman, and you say something and then the other woman suddenly goes, yeah, and women actually belong in the kitchen. And it's that thing of sort of to serve their man, sort of men should not cook and that kind of thing. And very conventional sort of traditionalist approaches to femininity or whatever. But you're there going, but you were agreeing with me a second ago when you said that women should be career driven or whatever. So it's kind of like very sort of that sort of disconnect, that dissonance feels very much like what the Countess would be. And well, also I guess the Countess would want to test Grissell because Grissell is lowly born as well. Two separate points there.
Other thoughts in the room? Anyone want to leap in? Rachael?
I don't know. I feel like some of the kind of off of what Helen was saying. I think this play is interesting, and this scene in particular, not just because of what it says about women's rights at the time and how they've changed until now, but also I guess as people, just the different perspective we have on children and I don't know, children's rights. I don't know if you know what I mean, that we have, that I don't want to say, I don't know how to say it, that maybe we're more gentle towards children now, at least legally. I don't know.
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah, yes, we definitely have a very different conception of childhood and having a childhood in as opposed to sort of being much smaller adults who get pushed towards work and service in a much more intense way at that time. Other thoughts? Okay, I wasn't going to do this, but I feel we can sneak in another little snackette of a short scene. I think we can do that. So I'm going to ask Briony if you could read the midwife coming up in the scene following. We will have the return of Politic. It's not a long scene like the last scene. We're having a few short burst scenes just to break up the rhythm a bit, which is quite nice. So scene 10, enter Politic Persuasion.
Sarah yonder is posting to every place. Some run one way and some run another, and I am sent also. This is a plain case, but by my hallidom I wot not whether. Even so now I study and call to mind to see if the occasion thou canst find. So lo, now I have it. I swear by St. Richard, the Marquis is in travail, God be her speed, and I am sent for Mother Appleyard, who is a midwife. A midwife, indeed. Such matters, you know, should not be slacked. Perchance if I tarry, my flesh may be hacked. Who the devil dwells here, can any man tell? Art thou a maid or a widow that tendeth this house? I think thou be sister to the vicar of hell. By my worship, if I enter, thou shalt bear me a souse.
And enter the midwife.
What pratest thou, thou foolish knave? Canst thou tell?
Bones, I promise you, I have got livery coat. There's never a yard but's worth a flat groat. Come on, sirrah, we'll part stakes, and that by and by, for I a knave can thou, knave, hastily espy.
What lack you, sirrah? Tell me with speed.
I am sent for you, mistress midwife, indeed. My lady Marquis desireth you to come to her presence, for of your aid she standeth in great need.
I will go with you with all diligence, for that lady's virtues do far exceed.
Come on, I beseech you, for we will go together. The clouds be clear, God send us fair weather.
God in this enterprise be our staff and stay, and send us in our business a most happy day.
So, the Patience is pregnant again and about to give birth. So time has passed since we last saw the Marquis, etc. So yeah, that was came a bit out of the blue. Impressions, thoughts, confusions.
All of those.
It's nice. It's doing it mostly through action. You know, it's not just having someone come on and say, time has passed. Liza?
I'm intrigued by the midwife. The Politics seems to assume that she's a morally corrupt person. And she enters, and in very few lines, like, she has zero time for his bullshit. You know, her first 2 lines sort of convey that. And she also seems to know about Grissell and have a good opinion of her. So in very few lines we get a nice addition to the world.
I mean, presumably she was there the first time around. I mean, if they're going, unless they've swapped doulas or something. Yeah. So, but yes, absolutely right. Midwife is clearly a professional who has no time. Is very, has other appointments potentially. So yeah.
I mean, I wonder whether Diligence, why is it that Politic is sent? Would Diligence not be a better person to run on this errand? For example,
slow. Diligence is too slow.
Then that works, perchance if I tarry, my flesh may be hacked. I mean, it's just an idea, but I just think, I don't know, we have to mess around with this in some way. It's just too random otherwise.
Katrina, then Rachael.
I'm thinking that the way that the midwife has zero time for Politic, like Liza said, does that kind of really quickly and effectively highlight Politic's kind of decline? Because her brevity seems to highlight his growing frustration, and he must be absolutely at the end of it by now, with people, every person he meets, them telling him how virtuous Grissell is, and he's still really quite verbose, relatively speaking. Midwife comes in, snap, snap, snap. That's you in your place. Let's go deliver another baby. It's does it say something about his decline in this scene?
Yeah, that's a really good point. That he's gone from being the trusted confidant of the Marquis to being put in his place by the midwife.
Yeah, and I don't think I fully understand the text here, but I promise you I've got a livery coat. He's not wearing it, but he's saying, I've got it. I'm sent from the Marquis, so I guess.
Possibly. Rachael.
Maybe she's just unbribable and she can't be persuaded like other people. Like, I think, she's a midwife. She's a working woman. She's probably delivered Grissell's first child, and if this is the second child she's having, then she's going to deliver that one, and she might have delivered Grissell herself. And I think maybe it's a little hard to slander somebody to her that she has personally delivered, and held up, just because she's known them and seen her grow up from a child. So she knows much more of her character than the Marquis or any of these other people who have I guess blanked, that they have to fill in with their own imaginations of her, where this woman does not.
Other thoughts? Briony.
It's just struck me from what Helen and Lynsey was saying, and what you were saying earlier about how you think Diligence is really moves really slowly. I don't know if I'm maybe reading too much into it, but one of the midwife's lines is, "I will go with you with all diligence." And when you sort of said about, well, why couldn't it have been somebody else that had gone to that had been sent to the midwife with this task? Again, I think perhaps the midwife is very slow, as you know, and sure in what she's doing. And there's that comedy aspect of him being in such a frantic hurry. And the midwife just, yeah, I'll go with you with all due diligence. We're going to sort this baby. It's all going to be fine. No rush. And he's like getting all frantic and we need to go or I'm going to be in trouble.
Yeah, the Politic is basically stuck on 1.5 speed, isn't he? Whereas everybody else is watching it normally. Yeah, that because it does seem to be a fairly consistent character point. I mean, we may be projecting onto the text, but I think it's a very plausible shout. Eric, then
Yeah,
Liza.
it is that thing of like, come on, we gotta go. It's like then I still have to deal with all like these humans who are really boring and stuff. And I mean, come on, where are the cream pies and all the lovely things that I had from Venus and Jupiter and all that stuff? If you think about it, yeah, I mean, it's quite a fall going from like Venus and Jupiter and all that stuff to having to deal with an idiot Marquis and his wife.
Yes, because of course he had this fantastical tale at the top of the play that, posited that he's done all sorts of things, but then again, how true that is, who knows? Liza.
Yeah, I also think it's really fascinating that the midwife gets a name, and her name is Mother Appleyard, which is, both very evocative and sort of it sort of furthers the truism that in this sort of play, even if your setting is like Rome or the Turkish Empire or Byzantium or something, the clowns are always English. The clowns are always named things like George and Dick and Tom, and so we have the Countess of Pango and the Marquis Gautier and. But no, Mother Appleyard. Good, solid name.
Okay, we have reached the end of the main part of this session. So, final thoughts. You don't need to come up with anything if you have nothing. Just wave me on. A fair number of us have been with this play throughout. We have another third of the play left to go. But Lynsey, do you have any final thoughts about this play? What do we do with this play?
I mean, I think it's got a little bit more exciting than yesterday. I think there's a bit more going on. I was sort of getting a very vague kind of concept about some kind of, not just David Lynchian, but some kind of, I don't know, I want to say almost Brechtian or Gestalt kind of version whereby, all the characters had like a second actor who was playing them modern and kind of taking issue with what was going on or that kind of thing. I mean, like almost having two plays running concurrently. I just don't know how else one could really. I don't know why one would present this otherwise at this point, 2/3 of the way through.
Absolutely, I'm currently seeing this as a play that we're using as part of a show that is about history, as opposed to a show that is about presenting this show, if that makes sense. Yeah. To present the text as it is just. The question is, we could do it, but should we do it? And it's very difficult to find a justification on that level. But maybe I do like the idea of that there is a second text running parallel with it. That might be a route in, but then maybe not. Helen, final thoughts.
I think it is very, very interesting, but not tremendously possible to do. One of the things that I did because I did some of the work on the text, and I was looking for clues because there's so much that is impenetrable. Things like the Countess of Pango and this place Salutius, and why Politic is constantly swearing by different saints. And I started looking for significance and trying to find out where Boulogne-le-Gras might be. I mean, I really put time into it and I could find nothing. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this play is just as puzzling as it was before I started looking at it. It's very strange.
I was thinking maybe Bologna.
Well, yeah, that was what I came up with, because English Boulogne in northern France is often called Boulogne in English. And so I thought perhaps Boulogne-le-Gras was sort of fat, a bigger version of Boulogne.
It's where the spaghetti sauce comes from.
Yeah, which would be Bologna. But on the other hand, she's the Countess of Pango.
Which I have to say is the one element of this play that I might take away. I want to hear more adventures of the Countess of Pango. It feels like it should be a children's adventure series from the 1970s. Liza, final thoughts?
Well, I mean, I've already talked a lot, so yeah, I think. Was it Lynsey saying that this play is basically like two different plays happening at once, and one is a comedy and one is a tragedy? Who was it who said that? Was it Lynsey or?
Can't remember.
Anyway, someone said it, and it wasn't me for a change. And so I will be interested to see how we wrap this whole thing up, and whether politic persuasion will get their comeuppance once and for all.
Oh yes, Eric. Final thoughts.
I'm interested because like yesterday I was kind of like, well, I remember Stephen saying it was kind of basically boring.
He did find the Marquis very, very boring to play. It has to be said.
Yeah. And being upstaged by a huge cat now. Wow.
It's all right. You don't need to say anything now, Eric. Nobody's watching you.
And yeah, basically, I was thinking that it would be interesting to take politic persuasion out of this play and compare that character to similar characters from other plays, like, I don't know, Common Conditions, or I don't know, what was it, Sensibility, or Sensitivity, or something from another play that we did with nature and reason and all that stuff, where you've got one vice character trying to ruin the entire plot, but kind of having those kind of plays talk to each other would be quite interesting.
Yeah, we've got a few really weird. I mean, there's lots of weird 1560s plays, but this does seem to be in semi-conversation with some of them. Yes, we mentioned the Marquis. So Katrina, did you find the Marquis incredibly tedious to play, are you passing has the baton been passed on to you in that sense?
I didn't find him tedious at all. I find him a bit of a walkover, taking direction from his servants so quickly and thoroughly. But I'm because my background's kind of classical operas and what have you, I'm finding it really hard to find the storyline ridiculous. Because it's essentially a darker version of Così fan tutte, or you've got your various aspects of the Marriage of Figaro, like the stupid Marquis, and there's questions of virtue and what have you, and yeah, it's in one sense you kind of want a modern narrator, like you said, Lynsey. I don't know where it came from actually, can't remember. Kind of going around with just why on a big placard, but then actually if you I think it could work. But actually, if you stop asking why and you just roll with it, it does make sense. The fewer questions you ask.
Stop asking questions. Don't question things. You shouldn't ask questions. There's no such thing as macra. Eric.
Just to add to that, because I remembered something that we talked about a few weeks ago, because of the placard thing. But I think it was with the Cobbler's Prophecy, where we talked about having someone there typing, sort of looking up stuff live, for like to identify the muses and all that stuff. That maybe that could work for this one. I don't know.
I think we also suggested that we have a big neon sign that flashes on with just misogyny at this point, just to highlight where we place things as we go. Briony, final thoughts?
I don't really know. I'd like to know how it all ties up at the end, but generally, without too much commitment, I'm not liking it as much as the two whole other plays that I can compare it to of a similar sort of time and nature.
Fair enough. Rachael, final thoughts?
I'm just kind of neutral on this one. I don't know. I'm neutral. Maybe in the third, maybe it'll come back in the ninth inning. I don't, with all its trigger warnings and misogyny lights popping up for people to know. Maybe not, but maybe I'll remain neutral.
Rachael is being Switzerland, and that is where we close the session. There's always a bit of a question with some of these plays of, the ending sometimes can justify the strange journey that you put characters on, and sometimes the unpleasant journey you put characters on, and sometimes it doesn't. We will find out next time when we complete the journey into Patient I made it almost sound like patient, as in she's got some sort of ailment. Patient G, like the Patient Zero. Is that routine? No, definitely not. Okay, I'm stopping talking now. It's been a long day. Thank you very much to all the readers. And for all their comments. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Countess of Pango, I.